Throughout the years, there have been very few artists that manage to maintain such a following and popularity that they are able to forge a lengthy and prosperous career in the music industry. However, there's always that small contingency of people that, whilst they're fortunate enough to have some form of exposure and lifetime on the commercial charts, that star does more than often fade. Step forward the American singer-songwriter Alicia Keys, someone who many people are well aware of, yet is someone who's never really stuck the landing when it comes to long-lasting continuous success. Throughout the early stages of her career, she was always bubbling around the middle of the UK top 40, and while she didn't do badly in terms of sales, she went through a point of absence around the mid-2000s before coming back with No One, easily one of the most overrated hit songs of that decade. She continued to have decent success leading into 2012, where she saw her last top 10 single. Alicia has always struck me as a singles artist and never seemed to create a consistent album, and with her newest project, her 6th studio album entitled Here, I really was expecting pretty much of the same, since, for the most part, this album has received rather mixed opinions from critics. This time, however, rather than being an album full of templated pop tunes, Alicia went on to quote in interviews that she wanted to go for something that expelled ideas, thoughts and feelings that aimed to give the listener something to mull over. On a philosophical level, there's nothing new or incredibly insightful by any stretch of the imagination. However, there's this immense amount of earnestness, truth and belief to Keys' words and delivery that this album managed to resonate with me in ways that I didn't even see coming. Lyrically, this album is Alicia doing something that she always wanted to do: take topics that mean something to her and express herself as freely as possible. And the result is rather startling in the sense that this new Alicia Keys is someone that I'm wholly embracing. Family plays a big part on this album, with tracks like The Gospel and Blended Family (parenthesis What You Do for Love), the first being a story about ghetto families and the issues that they face, being surrounded by drugs and financial destitution, having to scrape in order to eat and survive, and the second describing the unity between family members irrespective of how loose the connections may be, and the support and love that's shown and given. Plus, A$AP Rocky drops a pretty sentimental verse as well, one of this album's highlights. Alicia also sends up her hometown of New York on She Don't Really Care / One Love, where she states that despite all the countries she's lived in, nothing can beat that of her hometown, and on Pawn It All, where she references how the roughness of the city taught her the hard way that when you get knocked down, you got to get back up on your feet and fight, whether this is for your dreams or for your freedom. Other highlights include Girl Can't Be Herself, where she expresses her dissatisfaction with the idea that a woman should have to look a certain way in order to be considered beautiful, and instead calls upon women and young girls to not doll themselves up in order to seek approval on an aesthetic level and not hide their natural look. The penultimate track, Where Do We Begin, where Alicia contemplates the reaction she'd receive if she were to reveal that she's in a relationship with someone of the same sex, but draws on the strength of said love to tell those closest to her. And the album's closer, Holy War, where Alicia pleads for a nation where compassion, understanding, acceptance and freedom wins out over discrimination, ignorance, violence and segregation. Regarding instrumentation and production, the album has a heavy soul and R&B vibe along with small brushes of hip-hop, and on the whole, there's not really much to criticise. Never do I feel that the elements override each other, blending these genres together rather seamlessly and with great results. The Gospel combining skittering drum beats with an ascending and descending piano riff, bass and a subtle undercurrent of synth and strings, all done to great effect. Girl Can't Be Herself is predominantly R&B with the chipper acoustic guitar, bright piano line and great bass guitar groove. Where Do We Begin Now keeps it simple with the percussion and allows the piano to deliver a lush piece with brief spurts of synths that remain muted enough to not override the track. Illusion of Bliss is carried quite effortlessly by the keyboard organ, bass guitar and electric piano. Blended Family registers as the most hip-hop song on the album. Thankfully, the percussion holds back enough to allow the continuous acoustic guitar melody to remain audible, and the piano is also given enough airspace and it isn't drowned out when the backing vocalists and synths come into play. And Holy War, which is the best track on the whole album, is simply divine. I absolutely love the simple sound of fingers sliding up and down on the guitar strings, along with the muted kick drum before the percussion takes a more forceful, sharper approach, and with Alicia's silky vocals that take a more grittier and impassioned tone in the chorus, it's such a moment of raw purity. I can't help but love this track entirely. However, it's not all flawless. flawless. Work on it introduces a hint of gospel with the harmonised vocals, but the constant appearance of the male work on it vocal appearing in the most sporadic of places is really distracting. More That We Know brings a sense of harmony and togetherness with the audible conversing voices in the background, and overall the instrumentation is fine, but it doesn't do what Blended Family did, and that's allow the acoustic guitar to have some of the limelight, as the percussion is a bit too heavy-handed. The xylophone melody on She Doesn't Really Care / One Love is different, but it does come off as a weird inclusion. Plus, I don't think the transition is anything to rave about, and overall it's a song that leaves me feeling a little hollow, which is all that I feel on Kill Your Mama, a song carried entirely by an acoustic guitar and comes off as the most out-of-place track on the whole project. Despite some grievances that I have with some production elements, I do feel that some tracks don't hit the mark on a lyrical level, whether I feel that they could have been more nuanced, more personal, and could have stretched beyond a simple premise. When I look back on Alicia's past catalogue, I have no hesitation in saying that this is without a doubt the best album Alicia Keys has ever created. The tremendous leap in terms of quality is astounding. I imagine Alicia went into this album with the mindset of dropping the prospect of creating anything that's made to slot into commercial radio and create something authentic and real, and as a result she made a fantastic record and one of this year's highlights. This is an absolute recommendation. Drop what you already know about the Alicia Keys of the past and give this album a listen.